Hello friends, welcome to this session. Let us learn and grow together. In this session, I am going to demonstrate how to implement basic REST API using AWS Lambda, API Gateway and Node.js. Along with that, I will also show how you can monitor logs in the CloudWatch and how you can test API using Postman tool. Let's get started. First of all, I am creating the Lambda function. Uh, that will be a serverless function to execute our code in different runtime. So here you can select a Lambda by using search bar, or you can go to the services. From this compute section you can click on Lambda, click on create function. There are different options during creating function, but we are going to choose this scratch one, so we can create a Lambda function from scratch. Let me give the function name get to do. Here we have a different runtime option like Python, Go and many other languages. For now I am selecting this Node.js 14.x. Architecture options we are keeping as it is default one. Here we have a option to select the execution role. By default it will create a new role with basic Lambda permission, and this role will be required. Lambda will need a permission to write a logs into the CloudWatch log group, so that is why we need some permission relevant to that, so we are keeping that default one. In advanced setting we have this different option relevant to network and code signing that we keeping as it is for now, and we creating this get to do default function. So once we are done with this function creation, let me show you the detail regarding that. So we have here we have implement like created this get to do function, and here this function have a Node.js runtime default code with the handler function, and we can see like here it will return the JSON response with data score 200 and some body having some tasks like a dummy tags like hello from Lambda in the response. So this will be a basic Node.js code, and here we are able to test this Lambda function by clicking on test, and we can create a events a test, and so it will show here event created, so we are able to test it, and it show like hello from Lambda function with the status 200. So this function is working fine. Like here we can also test in this section, and it is showing status 200 and hello from Lambda. So this function is executed standalone without any trigger. In monitoring section we have we are able to see the logs relevant to Lambda, like in when we check in the logs it will show Lambda function execution relevant log in the CloudWatch. So when we creating any Lambda function, by default one log group will be created. Say it can say, you can see like get to do function we created, so this by default log group is created along with that, and in this we are able to see the different execution. We run this function 2 times, so it show 2 logs here along with the different detail like time duration and memory occupied for that. We are also able to see this X-ray tracing and all those things if we enable that particular settings. In configuration we have like default 128 MB default memory allocated, and timeout of 3 seconds by default. At the moment there is a no any triggered link with this Lambda function, so right now nothing so here. And in permission we can see like this is the role which is created default as a part of creating a Lambda function, and that it will have a like a permission relevant to CloudWatch log relevant. So if we can see this IAM role, there will be a permission attached to it, and we can see this permission here. You can see like we role have a permission allocated to allow create a log groups and create a log groups team and put a log event. So whenever a Lambda function execute, it will write a logs into the CloudWatch. So that is why this permission needed with the Lambda function when we create it. These are the different setting like environment, variable, relevant setting, and many settings are available. For now we are keeping it default, so not using this setting for now. And this trigger we will use as trigger we use API gateway as a trigger. So let us go to the API gateway and create the endpoint. Here you can search this API gateway. So from this API gateway section, and there are API gateway allowed to do implement many different types of APIs, say for example HTTP, WebSocket, REST API, private and public. So for now I am creating this REST API public, and I am selecting the new API, and I am giving the to do API name as a to do API. Okay, and I am creating that API. So after creating this API, let me create the resources. We need to click on this action and create resources, and we can give name to do to the resources, and let us create the resource. Once we are done with creating resource, we need to create a method. Say for example we are selecting get method and clicking on OK. So we need to link this method endpoint with the particular Lambda function or any other different option, integration options, like we are able to link with other services, some mock or HTTP or VPC link. But for now we are integrating this with the Lambda function trigger. So whenever this API endpoint function call, it will trigger the Lambda function. So let us link that our already created Lambda function get to do here and click on save. So here it asking like API gateway will need a permission to invoke Lambda function. So when we click OK, so it will auto give permission to the API gateway to execute the Lambda function. So here we done with like basic setup of creating API gateway endpoint, and we link that endpoint with the Lambda function get to do. So here also we are able to test this API which we created basic API. So for now no need to pass any data, so we can test it. We can see here we get the status code 200 and body hello from Lambda. So this JSON response return it from the Node.js code by Lambda function. And now we want to run this this API endpoint externally from Postman. So for that, first of all we need to deploy this API. So for deploying this API we need to go into the action and deploy API, and we need to create new stage. Say for example dev stage I am creating and deploying this API. So now we deployed this APIs. So we are able to test that API by using Postman. So this is the endpoint. I am taking this endpoint and opening the Postman tool. This Postman tool is a very good tool to test the APIs. Also there are many features available in this tool, like we are able to create a collection of the API, and we are execute that API whenever we require. So this is a very good tool for API testing and all those things. So let me paste here our endpoint, which is I copied from API gateway, our created function, and I am executing this endpoint. So here you can see I am getting that response status code 200 and body hello from Lambda. And if we can change anything into the Lambda function, then it will be apply over here in the response. So let us cross check and edit that function. So here we let us change it I am changing the tags. I am changing the tags in the Lambda function and deploying it. Make sure to deploy, otherwise it will not have an impact. And once it deployed, let us run this API endpoint again in the Postman. So here you can see like we get data score 200. This is a basic first API. So like we get this response whatever we return into the Node.js code over here in the Lambda handler, that come into the response. So here we demonstrated how we can create a Lambda function, how we created the API gateway, and how we can link that with the how we can link API gateway endpoint with the Lambda function. Here also you can see like in Lambda function, last time we see there is a nothing so into the triggers, but now you can see like a trigger will be so API gateway as a part of to do this Lambda function. So we link this Lambda function with the API gateway, that is why it's so here that way. And again, like whenever we are running this API from the Postman, it will do the logs into the CloudWatch. So say for example we want to monitor some log, then we are able to check that those log in CloudWatch. You can see like these are the different logs relevant to our execution. Let me console something and we can execute that again. So I am doing some console code. I am doing some console logs, so it will be comes into the CloudWatch log. So I put this console log and then deploy it. So now I'm again running this API in the Postman. So now we can cross check the logs in the CloudWatch, and let us see like whatever we console, that should be come into the logs. So this is the latest one. You can see like we have logged this logs monitoring demo. This tags we logged into the console.log, so that will be come into the response. I mean this in the CloudWatch log. So this way we are able to monitor the logs of API, and this way we are able to implement it. So together we learn here AWS Lambda, API gateway, and Node.js basic things, and like CloudWatch monitoring along, and also how we can run API using Postman. So this is way by this session you following, you are easily able to start how to implement a basic API in the AWS. Hope you like this session. Keep it following and let us learn and grow together. Keep sharing and keep liking this session. Thank you for your time and thank you for watching it.